Do you wave your terrible towel when Renegade plays? Reach for a tasty cake when JJ shouts, "He scores!" Does the sound of an F1 engine make your heart race? Doing push-ups with the Nittany Lion after a TD? Then lend us an ear, and we will share the exhilaration of Steelers football, the excitement of Flyers hockey, the nail-biting finishes of F1, and the pride when we yell, "We are Penn State." Welcome to the SteelFlyers Show, the strangest combination of sports fandom since pineapple was put on pizza. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the SteelFlyers All Sports Network, and we have got a very, very special preview show for you. That's right, folks. We have got a very special guest sitting in here tonight with us, too. We're doing the Philadelphia Flyers 2021 season preview, and why not bring in the voice of the Flyers? That's right. Mr. Jim Jackson is sitting in with us. How you doing, Jim?
Great, Steel. How are you?
Oh, man, I am excited. I'm ready to go. I can't wait. What's that?
I had a feeling you would be.
Yes. Yeah. We're getting ready for some hockey and games that are going to count. And I am over the top excited this year. I feel really, really energized about what's going on with this team. And I couldn't wait to sit down and talk to you and get some of your takes on some of the things here. So, first of all, tell the folks that, you're the voice of the Philadelphia Flyers, right? And where can we follow you on Twitter? And tell us about your really cool venture school now that you're doing.
All right. Well, yes, I'm the Flyers play-by-play broadcaster on television. 28th year, I think. It gets complicated now with the years because we had one we missed.
Yeah.
Lockout, plus, of course, the last couple of years. But they all count, so I think it's 28th year, something like that, 26th on television. Jim J. Philly on Twitter. Don't expect excitement, but I am there. I do tweet out occasionally, and once the games gets going, I tweet out a little bit more. Looking to possibly do an internet show as this season rolls along, Flyer-centric, so we'll keep you posted on that. And yes, I have my broadcast coaching. Just check in at Jim Jackson broadcastcoaching.com, and JimJacksonBroadcasting.com is the website. I'm confusing the email now with the website. Ron, you get all these things.
Well, hey, listen, I'll have all the links down there for you guys so that you can make sure that if you want to go to Jim's school, you can check it out because I'll have all the links down there and I'll have the email down there for you as well, too. But you did have some classes.
Deal, and it's been going great. We had camps this summer.
Yeah.
Did really well with those, and now we're back into kind of the one-on-ones. We're talking about doing a camp maybe in December because it'll be while school is in session. Try to get a lot of the college kids, so keep an eye out for that. And then outside of that, just doing the one-on-ones. It's been a lot of fun. It's really been fun also hearing back from some of my students. They've come back to do some classes where I'm basically reviewing their work now and to hear their progress, and such as you. And it's really fun. So I'm totally enjoying that, and also doing some audiobook narrating, but really ready for the hockey season at this point. It's time to get this thing going.
I agree. So let's just take off all the equipment and just dive right in because we might as well just get right into it, okay? And for me, I believe there's a couple of storylines in here for the Flyers this season. And one of the first storyline I believe that I really want to touch on and get your perspective on is the goaltending, okay? Philadelphia had a tough year last year, and Brian Elliott played in 53% of the games, okay? That did not bode well for our starting goaltender, Carter Hart, okay? So whole thing's been changed around. A lot of things have been different. This team is not the same team as it was, okay? But from what have you seen of Carter Hart this preseason and training camp, what is your assessment of his play, maybe his conditioning, his attitude compared to last season?
We still aren't getting into the locker room to talk with these guys one-on-one, Steel, so I can't really talk about his attitude too much other than what we see in the Zoom press conferences and what we see on the ice. But all reports, and we do talk to the coaches behind the scenes, he's back to being the Carter Hart that we saw the first couple of years, more relaxed, smiling a little bit more. Last year, I think the pandemic, the last year and a half, as for so many of us, was tough on him. And I think he was a young guy who basically would take his game home and had no one to bounce it off of and nothing else to do. And he's pent up in the apartment, and it wore on him pretty quickly. We saw the frustrating stick swinging in Boston just, 5 or 6 games into the year, and you're wondering, wow, he's that revved up already, and it deteriorated pretty quickly after that. And I will say that the play of the team was bad before the goaltending was bad.
Yeah.
The goaltending kind of wore down by 10, 11, 12 games in, but the first 10 games of the season, defensively, they were a mess. They were giving up 40 shots a game, lots of quality chances. And it just didn't – a lot of times when that happens, you have the team, one area will pick it up, and the goaltending did help pick it up, and so did the offense early on. The team had a good record, but they weren't playing that well. We all knew that. And then eventually the dam burst, and the goaltending started to fade. The goal scoring went away, and then they were losing. And so it was a tough year on Carter, for sure. His numbers were awful, numbers that were down to the bottom of the league after being very much in the upper half of the league to that point in his career. So the hope is that he bounces back. And to be honest with you, Carter Hart situation mirrors Travis Konecny's situation, mirrors Travis Sanheim's situation, mirrors, although with different circumstances, certainly Oscar Lindblom's situation. These are young players who really didn't play up to what the Flyers expected last year. So while a lot of people are focusing on the changes that were made, and they were significant, I really still think deep down the success or failure of this year's team is really ingrained in how those young players either bounce back to the level they were at, or even hopefully even a little bit better because they're more mature. If they play as they did last year, even with Ryan Ellis and Rasmus Ristolainen and Keith Yandle and Cam Atkinson and all the newcomers, I don't think it's going to be enough to get this team into the playoffs.
Yeah.
They have those players, most especially Carter, but it's not all on Carter. They have to have those other guys, and there are more of them. Nick Obey-Kubel, they have to have those guys step back to where they were. So hopefully for Carter, that's where he's going to be. I'd say all signs are there, except a little bit here late. I'm a little worried because he missed a couple practices, couldn't play in the final preseason game. Kind of weird for your number one goalie to miss the last preseason tune-up, but because he didn't skate the day before because of what they call maintenance, bumps and bruises, he couldn't play in the game. He was on the practice ice the day after that. Seems like it's okay, but then he missed a press briefing as well. So there's some little things that have me a little bit worried about physically where he's at, but
yeah,
when he's been on the ice, he's looked good, and everyone talking to him has been very happy with his attitude.
I too have to agree that from what I've seen so far this preseason and in camp, I've been liking the direction that I see him going in. You know, I mean, he seems like he's going back more towards what he was pre-bubble and during the bubble at that level of play. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where everybody's expecting Carter Hart to be at, or some semblance thereof of that level of play from Carter Hart this year. And that's why I feel that this is one of the biggest storylines going into the season, because if Martin Jones has to play as much as, say, Moose did last year, then I don't know. We might be in line for a better draft pick, I think, than anything. You know what I mean?
Jones. I mean, again, the only reason Elliott played in that many games is Carter Hart missed the last 3 weeks of the season. They were on pace when Carter was healthy to be about a 60-40 split, and that's probably where we're going to be, because there's a lot of back-to-backs due to the compressed schedule with the Olympics. So I wouldn't be surprised if they play the full 82, and let's hope they do, that Carter plays maybe 50 and Martin Jones would then play 32. So that's a lot of games for a backup goalie. If you look back 10, 15 years ago when you had your Martin Jones and your Patrick Waugh playing 60, 65 games, and you still have a couple of guys who do that, Vasilevsky and who else? Hellebuck in Winnipeg.
Hellebuck was another one, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a couple that still look to go 60, 65, but they're not looking for that from Carter, especially with a lot of back-to-back situations. So, Martin Jones is going to be a guy who has to play pretty well because they're going to rely on him for at least 30 or so games anyhow. If Carter gets hurt or if Carter really struggles, then, yeah, if he becomes the number one, I'm not saying this because I don't have trust in Martin Jones, but it's just not a good sign because that means that Carter's A, either hurt, or B, he's not playing well.
Right.
Hopefully
Yeah.
Martin Jones does play, between 28, 32 games. Carter plays 50 or so, and they both play well. Martin Jones is in a very similar situation, except he has 3 years of struggles, not just 1 year.
Okay.
And he's hoping that being with Kim Dillabaugh will help get that turned around. His camp was uneven. First game wasn't so good. I thought he was better in his second game. Washington was a real up and down game. I didn't think the Flyers played all that well defensively, so I'm not putting a lot of that on Martin. So we'll see where he goes. I mean, this is a guy who, in 16 and 17 was Vezina Trophy. He was in the consideration for that. 4 straight years, 30 wins, 60 games played. So this is a guy who's been a good goaltender at this level. Not so much the last couple of years, the last 3 years, but he's 31. It's not like he was getting to the 35, falling off the cliff because of age. There's still something there, and the Flyers are going to try to unlock it.
And I think bringing him back with a coach that he's had before with Kim Dillabaugh, I think is what the Flyers are hoping that is going to help unlock this from Martin Jones to get him to be able to suit up for those 32 games and be able to win. I would say, gosh, I would have to say he'd have to at least win 70% of those games. Maybe
win 70%.
70% of the games that he plays. Martin Jones, do you think? I mean, is that a good?
If they do win 70%, that's good. I mean, that's a high percentage. You're talking about, a points percentage of 70%. If both goalies play to that rate, this team is up in the top 2 or 3 of the league. So maybe at the very top. So,
okay, but I mean, all I need is Martin Jones to win 70% of the games that he plays in because he's only playing in 32. You know what I mean?
That's an idea. If he's playing in 30 games, winning 70% of the games means he's going to win 21 to 22 games.
Right.
So that's 22-8 or 22-5-3 or whatever. So you're talking about really good. Flyers settle for 60%, but again, it depends on how they're playing. There's so many variables here.
Right.
But he's capable of posting wins. We know that. So
that's what I mean. Yeah.
We'll see where it lands. Still, if you and I are having our mid-season conversation and we're talking about Carter Hart playing in less than 50% of the games, there's either injury issues or Hart really struggled. So no, this is no offense to Martin Jones. It's not good news if he's playing more than 50% of the games.
Right. And that's kind of where I wanted to get where you felt it was based off of how things happened from last year. And then kind of now we're trying to do a reset with Carter Hart trying to, reset this year and hoping that he's going to be playing those, 60 some odd games this year instead of what happened last year. And we're looking for Martin Jones to come in and play those 32 games, play those games that are on the back-to-back nights. Because, let's be honest, if the Flyers want to go anywhere or do anything in the playoffs, he's going to have to win some of them games. Those games are going to have to be important wins that he's going to need to win. So all right, okay. Last question about the goalies. What do you think about a potential third goalie? Who do you think is going to be a potential third goalie?
I mean, who's third in the depth? I mean, you're not talking about 3 with the big club. You're just talking about third of the depth chart?
Yes, just third on the depth chart.
Yeah, I mean, Felix Sandstrom deserves the first crack at that. He's had experience. He's the oldest guy, but that's a question that will be answered by the goalies. If Samuel Ersson really plays lights out, or Stamenko plays lights out down there, I think the 3 of them are going to kind of rotate between the ECHL and the AHL, and they're all going to get a lot of games. If one of them just goes lights out, he's going to become your third. I mean, Samuel Ersson is a sneaky prospect. He's a guy who could be that guy. Sandstrom is kind of a wild card. He's had some really great moments. He's had some really tough moments. Ustimenko, we just don't know.
Yeah.
He gathered some pretty good things before he got hurt. So all 3 have question marks around him. All 3 have capabilities of being good. So we'll see. Now, if the Flyers lose one of their top 2, my feeling is they'll go out and get a veteran. Unless one of the youngsters, unless it's like really late in the year and one of the youngsters has proven to them that he can do it. But if in the next month or 2, either Hart or Jones get hurt, my guess would be they go out and get a veteran, because I don't think feel the three of those, any of the three of those, are NHL ready to take on a full load of games.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to get your opinion on that, because I have a feeling somewhere down the road that goalie is going to have to at least sit on the bench at some point in time this year. I mean, in the last 4 years, we've seen a goalie rotation in Philadelphia unlike any other team in the league. And I'm just trying to be as prepared as we can be for potentially that. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I would absolutely expect to see one of those guys at some point as a backup, because there's also COVID. There's still we just saw 5 Seattle Kraken players are on the COVID list for the first game. So, and the thing is, these players are getting tested, I think, every third day for the vaccinated ones, and the unvaccinated every day. So they're finding out they have or have the potential to have it more than you and I, who aren't getting tested, right? So while we think that numbers are going down and everything's good, they're being tested so much, and there's still the variant out there. We're going to still have guys miss games. They might not actually get sick, but they may test positive and have to miss a game or two. So with the farm team that close, I could envision one of them coming down to be a backup on the spur of the moment or something like that. Otherwise, if we see him, it means there's injury issues, which isn't a good thing. So again, no offense to Samuel or Felix or Usti, but I don't really want to see them this year. I want them to get a lot of games to come on, and really play well and put themselves in the mix for the future, while Jones and Hart play all the games up here. That would be the case scenario. Yeah,
no, I'm in so agreement with you on that one. I really don't want to see any of those guys come in and play at all either. You know what I mean? So no, we don't want to do that. No. All right. The next storyline that I want to get into here, and this is something that we talked about at the end of our season wrap-up that you had mentioned that's really stuck with me since then. And Chuck Fletcher, the general manager of the Philadelphia Flyers, in my opinion, I believe, has basically pushed all in for this year. I mean, all the chips are on the table now. He pretty much spent all his money, cashed in all his chips to basically pull in as many of the players that he possibly could to improve this team. I mean,
when we last talked, it was how much stock would he put in last year?
Right.
Again, and this is reiterating, but the team from November of 2019 to the pause in March of 2020 had the second most points, tied for the second most points in the NHL. And from like February to the pause, they were the best team.
And they were on a 9-game streak too.
They won 8 of 9. So you're looking at a team that was playing very well. And it could be easy to say, with normal life, this was a very good team. And then COVID came and they never really got their rhythm, because in the bubble, while they did win their 3 round-robin games and they did get to the second round, they didn't play great against Montreal, and they were outplayed badly, even though they got 7 games against the Islanders. Had to win 3 overtime games to get to that 7th game. And then last year was last year. So, how much? My question to you was, how much stock was Chuck going to put into the COVID years? The answer is a lot, because he changed just about every aspect of the team. You talk about goaltending, obviously new backup, defense, every pair has a new player. Up front, Atkinson, Brassard added, and a guy like Jake Voracek being traded meant he wanted to attack the overall atmosphere in the clubhouse, in the locker room, and basically change that as well in the leadership group. So he just went about and changed everything. Now, he kept a lot of good pieces, but he made changes to a lot of areas. So, and he said it since that, the definition of insanity is if you keep going back to the same thing, you're going to get the same result. Expecting a different result is insanity.
Right.
And so he didn't want it. Now, that's based upon the last couple of years. If you go back to the year that was shut down, before it was shut down, they were playing really well with that group.
Yes.
So, but he put more stock in what's happened since. And I can understand that. There's more pressure to win coming off of the tough year they had last year. So they're going to go with it. I mean, they parted with some good young talent. The trades were basically made for now, as you said, chips all in when you're trading as much as they did to get Rasmus Ristolainen.
Yeah, I mean, a first-round draft pick. That's a win-now mentality.
He's he's a free agent at the end of this year. And then to trade, for Ryan Ellis, 2 young players. So they were trading future potential for current certainty in terms of what the players bring. But when I say certainty, we're not 100% certain with Ryan Ellis due to injury issues, and Rasmus Ristolainen, just due to the fact that there's a lot of people who follow hockey who do not like Rasmus Ristolainen. Many of them are analytics folks. There's also a lot of people like my partner, Keith Jones, who love him. He is a polar player. You either kind of love him or you hate him. I may be one of the few that's kind of in between. But I'll tell you this about Rasmus Ristolainen. He's going to bring sandpaper, as Pierre Maguire, now the Vice President of Player Development with the Ottawa Senators, used to always say in the broadcast, he brings sandpaper, which this team really hasn't had. There were a couple preseason games where you could just feel an energy, fact that the other team didn't really like playing against the Flyers. I haven't felt that a whole lot lately, so that's going to help. And that is not something you can measure necessarily with analytics. So I do think he brings an element that was necessary for this team. And then the other ones, I mean, Ellis is a top-notch player at a cap hit that's like 2/3 of what Dougie Hamilton's getting. And I'll tell you right now, Ryan Ellis is a better player.
I agree.
Dougie Hamilton is something the Devils needed to do. He's a dynamic power play defenseman, but he's not a good two-way defenseman in terms of zone and so forth. And they're paying him $9.5 for another year. I mean, Ryan Ellis comes cheap when you compare him to Doug Hamilton or Darnell Nurse in Edmonton. Some of the others.
Seth Jones even. Yeah,
well, Seth Jones is a pretty good all-around player, but I mean, some of these guys, Darnell Nurse isn't proven yet, and he got a huge contract. So, So they now have Ryan Ellis, one of the better all-around defensemen, if he's healthy, one of the better all-around defensemen at a very affordable rate. And then they went out and made some sneaky moves like Nate Thompson and Derek Brassard. And Derek Brassard's had a really good camp, and thankfully so. With Kevin Hayes' injury. So all the moves, and Cam Atkinson, I don't want to forget that. The Flyers, if you take that trade on his face, Jake Voracek for Cam Atkinson.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say there's an advantage either way because Jake's probably a more all-around skilled player than Cam Atkinson, but Cam Atkinson's a better goal scorer. And
yes.
This needed a shooter. They needed that shooting mentality. Joel Farabee seems to have it now. Wade Allison, unfortunately, hurt, but he was going to add to the team.
Yeah.
Cam Atkinson. Now, with all that playmaking talent they've always had with the Giroux and at the time Voracek and Couturiers and all these guys up there who seem to think pass first. Now you have some guys who think shoot first. And if you can find the right guys to play with the right guys, I think it's going to help.
See, that I'm so with you on that because you had talked about a bunch of check boxes that Chuck needed to do this offseason. Yeah. And he did check off all of those check boxes according to you. And I agreed with that, except that you felt that there was one player that he didn't quite get. And that was that one player where you actually have to game plan for, that you have to he stepped out on the ice. We better be careful, or.
Well, Rasmus is that, but he's on defense. I thought they needed a forward with that.
Right.
Mentality. Now, out of the blue, Garrett Wilson has emerged on the scene. And I'm not saying Garrett Wilson's Tom Wilson. I'm not saying he's anything.
And there's no relation, right? There's no relation.
No. But what I'm saying is he's a big guy. And what I didn't know is he was a feared guy in the AHL for his fisticuff ability. So, and he hits. I mean, he knows his role. The injuries have brought it about, but this is a tremendous opportunity for this guy. He's 30 years old. He's no young kid.
Right.
Opportunity, and he seemed to get it. He seemed to figure out, hey, this is what I have to do. So if you put him and Thompson on that fourth line, it becomes a line, and Aubé-Kubel, it becomes a line that has 3 guys who will hit and be physical. So all of a sudden you might have that grind line there. So maybe kind of in a stealth kind of way, Chuck did address that, and I just didn't realize that Garrett Wilson was that. Again, I'm not saying he's going to be Ryan Reeves. Or
Oh, yeah, I know.
He's just a guy who I think understands his role. He also has some skill. He can score a little bit, so it's not like he's going to kill you at 5-on-5. So it'll be interesting to see if he makes the team officially. That's going to come out here shortly. And if not, he's down there in the farm if you're playing a game and you can call him up and say,
yeah,
need you for this game. But he played ahead of Jackson Cates in the final preseason game. He was kind of taking the first shift when they rotated in practices. So my guess is he's going to make the team, but we'll see. He didn't even have a contract. They'd have to sign him and figure out the cap ramifications of that and all that.
And he wasn't one of those guys that was on the list of people that were sent or loaned or waived or anything like that. He wasn't part of that round of first cuts or whatever, you know what I mean, that the Flyers did the other day or whatever. So I'm also very much liking some of the other little sneaky moves that were brought in, like the Keith Yandle move. Very economical, but I believe is paying dividends. The Nick Seeler move. I mean, he seems like he's like that Tyler Pitlick type player where you could just kind of plug him wherever you kind of need to have a player that can do what needs to be done. You know what I mean? And so I look to see these kinds of players filling in the holes, you know?
Yeah, it's depth. You have to have depth. And we found out already you have to have depth. I mean, they've been beset with some big-time injuries. I mean, Hayes and Allison, Moran, and then Zamula is out. Lazinski, I feel so bad for him. And
I know.
So all these injuries have cut into that depth, especially. They've cut into some top line with Hayes, but beyond that depth. So, Sealer's a kind of guy, if you need a defensive defenseman or another guy who's got a little bit edge to his game, you can bring him up. He's a big hitter. We didn't necessarily see a lot of that in the
I know. Yeah.
And they also have a guy like Clendenning who can be called up as a guy in a pinch when somebody gets hurt on D. I really like the three pairs. I got to be honest with you. When they first signed Yandle, my response was probably out loud to my computer screen, why? Because I really thought Cam York was ready. But I don't think it hurts Cam to get a half season, a full season, whatever, down at the AHL, especially watching Yandle run the power play, especially early in the preseason games, really has unbelievable vision. They got to get that ironed out as far as the chemistry there. They haven't played a ton together yet.
Right.
Like the way he runs the power play now. If you can get him out there 5-on-5 and have him not become a liability that way, and he certainly wasn't in the preseason games, he and Braun seemed to mix pretty well, then it's a home run. You've got a veteran player here probably for a year and another year of growth for Cam York, and he'll get some games probably with injuries and so forth, but another year of growth for Cam York in general down with the Phantoms, and we'll see how it goes.
That's kind of where my thought process was with the whole Yandle signing, because when Ekblad went down in Florida, that forced Yandle to play more top line minutes, and that's just not his thing right now. He's not capable of doing that anymore. He's more of a guy that needs to play 15, 16 minutes a game, something like that, when I think that's where he's going to fit in with the Flyers and then be that power play specialist and, things of that nature. So, but I look at it as giving exactly what you said, giving Cam that opportunity to go down to the Phantoms and be that number one guy, be that guy that's in every situation, be that guy that's on the penalty kill, power play, 4-on-4, 3-on-3, be the guy that does 25 minutes a night, because I think that is what's going to grow Cam's game.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's what's going to happen. That's the decision they've kind of made with Morgan Frost as well. And, that's what the AHL team is there for. We are all excited about Cam York. It's a prospect we got to see in the World Juniors. So we saw him a little bit more akin to a college football player, right? We see, and so you want to see him right away. And then we saw him in some games at the NHL level where he didn't look out of place. So we're all like, he's ready. But as you know, the league learns you. And I don't know if in game 7 or 8, Cam would have been as good as he was in game 2, So it can't hurt him. That is for sure.
Right.
If anybody gets hurt from an offensive defenseman standpoint, I would think Cam's the first recall. If it's a defensive defenseman, it might be Zamula. But nice to have or it might be Steele or Clendenning as far as a defensive defenseman. But it's nice to have young players, hopefully, kind of barking down there to get called up, and no space for them quite yet. That's kind of where an organization wants to be. And they want certainly Morgan Frost to do some barking down there too. So, and others, there's others down there.
Yes, there are.
Forster, there's some good young players. I'm going to make my way up to Lehigh Valley at least once or twice this year just to see a Phantoms game, because there's a whole lot of guys down there that are going to be Flyers one day.
I'm really lucky because I'm not that far from where the Bears play, and so I will probably have a much better opportunity to catch some of those games, which I will definitely be trying to do, is to catch some of those games for some of the to look at some of those guys play, because I'm excited to see Cam York play down there. I'm excited to see Zamula play down there. I'm excited to see how this Phantoms team, because I believe they're stacked. Quite honestly, I think I'm looking for the Phantoms. And then with Ian LaPerriere being the coach down there, and then bringing in Jason Smith, I mean, I believe that these two guys are going to teach those young players how to be professionals, how to be hockey players, how to do it the right way. And then when they do get called up, you know what I mean? And then they'll be able to fit more into the system of what AV's trying to do, I think.
Yeah, well, and also they have a good veteran group down there, group of players that will help teach those players. The coaches teach a lot in terms of on ice, but it really comes down to the players, teaching the players about off ice and how you act and how you stay out of trouble. So, yeah, I think it's a really good mix. We'll see how it all flows, but Lehigh Valley will be definitely interesting to watch this year.
I mean, I'm excited for them just because the fact that we're going to have fans back in the stands, and having the fans back in the stands for the AHL teams is definitely a huge plus as far as I'm concerned, because that's
full house at the Wells Fargo Center won't be too bad either, will it?
Right, I'm with you on that as well too. I'm definitely with you on that as well too.
The last one was the game against Boston, where the word had come out that the city was limiting large indoor gatherings, but it was still a sold out building. And it was like, are we doing the right thing here? But then down deep, I'm saying, well, this is how Philadelphia rolls. I mean, they're out to see their team. And then of course that was it. We boarded planes to Tampa Bay, and I haven't been on the road since. It won't be for a while.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, some people now say, oh yeah, I could see it was going to be a long-term thing. I had no idea it was going to be like this. And our lives have all changed, but I can't wait to see a full house. I mean, that's just going to be awesome.
I am so with you on that as well. I can't wait to see a full house, because that energy goes into the team. It goes into the broadcast. It comes through to the audience. It really does. I mean, from somebody who is on, that end of the camera all the time, you know what I mean? It's probably refreshing to hear how you are perceived on the other side. Like I always get to see you from this side of the screen. You know what I mean? And you always see, the camera. You're all looking at the guy that's holding the camera and everything. You know what I mean? And so, and I get to look at you from this side, and you can, even though last year was tough to watch, you can still see the professionalism coming through. And I think that when the buildings are full, especially with the playoffs, the way the Tampa Bay Lightning were, when that building was full and that place was just rocking. And you and I both know from experience how when you get the Wells Fargo oranged up, I mean, there's just no other place on this planet that's even more fun to be at a Flyers game than when that place is just rocking. You know?
It's gonna play into, I think, home ice advantage this year, returning a little bit. So it's just going to be that. That's the way sports are meant to be played, with people there, and not just a couple here and there, but with all the sections full. So yeah, it's going to be fun. I mean, we got to see it a little bit with the Sixers at the end of their playoff run. Unfortunately, the thing was going in the other direction at that point on the court, but we got to see the Wells Fargo Center full for a playoff game, and
right.
That's what we all can't wait for. And
exactly
the way now.
Exactly. So now we've talked about a lot of different things here with the Flyers, and I'm going to have to nail you down here now, Jim. I'm going to ask you.
I always expect tough questions from you, Steele.
All right. Okay. Well, I mean, I try to serve up as many softballs as I can, you know. Okay. I'm going to pin you down. All
Yeah.
right. Do you think this team is a playoff? Do you think that the Flyers will make the playoffs this year?
I do, but there's got to be some caveats to that. I mean, the injury issue can't be what it's already started out to be. While Chuck Fletcher did a very good job of adding depth to this organization, there's only so much depth. With the salary cap. You can't have an abundance of depth. You can have enough, and hopefully he's got enough. But as I said, from what I've seen from Carter Hart, what I've seen of Sanheim and Konechny and Lindblom, they look poised to get back to Obey-Kubel as well. Look to get back to where they were 2 years ago as opposed to last year. With the additions of Ellis, Ristolainen, Yandle, Brassard, Atkinson, Jones. Not only, by the way, we haven't talked too much about this, not only are these guys, almost all of them, guys you see how they fit in on the ice. They're all really outspoken, gregarious, energy-bringing guys. So I think that's going to help. The only problem I see is the division. It's tough. I mean, I do see regression for possibly Washington and Pittsburgh. We're already seeing, Crosby's not going to play the opener. Malkin's out for Washington now. Ovechkin's questionable. These are older teams now. They're based. You think about Claude Giroux and the Flyers. Some of their older players. Claude's 33. These guys a year older than that, and in some cases 2 years older than that, and playing even more minutes than Claude was playing. So, there could be regression in Pittsburgh and Washington. And if that's the case, because I do think the Rangers are a playoff team this year, I certainly think Carolina is a playoff team, and I certainly think the Islanders are a playoff team. So that's already 3. There's only 4, or maybe if you get the wild card, 5 that can make it. And I didn't even mention Pittsburgh and Washington. So you see how tough it's going to be.
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
The only 2 teams that really seem like they're really, really long shots in the conference are Buffalo and Columbus, really, right? And Detroit, the other division.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
The Devils, they stand to improve. So,
they've taken a step forward, I believe.
Yeah. So Devils. It's we shall see. It's going to be. I can't. I mean, my answer to your question is yes, but I'm not betting my house on it because it's such a tough division. And and we've already seen that what the injuries can do. Thankfully, they're going to get Kevin Hayes back. Looks, he's already skating. So
I saw that.
Rather than later. But they can't continually be. I mean, Wade Allison, I'm so disappointed because I really thought he brought a lot of things this team needs: that spunk, swagger, shooting mentality,
sandpaper.
A little sandpaper to his game. So all that. Unfortunately, what makes his game so good also leads him into harm's way a lot. So I don't know how long, whether he'll be a guy you can count on forever for 80 games. But hopefully they get him back at all, because I'm hearing it's a pretty serious ankle sprain, and not even skating. So it's going to be a while. There's ifs, but right. I do think with the changes made and with the bounce back, and I'm confident in the bounce back. Without that bounce back, they are not a playoff team. Understand that. If Hart, Konechny, Sanheim, Lindblom, all those young players that kind of either level up, regressed, if they don't bounce back to the level they were at, and really then some, they won't make the playoffs, in my opinion. But I do think they are going to bounce back. So I think
I you know what? Now that you even mentioned that, I think that's more of an underlying storyline, along with the goaltending and everything else that we talked about, is just that. Is, can those players who clearly took a step back last year, Konechny clearly took a step back last year, Sanheim took a step back, Lindblom, all these guys that you just rattled off, they all took step backs last year. So if they can come back and do, as you say, have that bounce back this year, I mean, that is the other major underlying storyline, I think, here for this team. Because if these guys can't play to that level, then all this depth and all this change, because those guys are becoming your core now, right? Like the Giroux's getting older, and those guys are moving along. Voracek's moved along. You know what I mean? These guys now are becoming the young core now, right? As far as I'm concerned, because they're the next up and coming group, right? And so,
well, they are, but there's a smaller group than they were, 3 months ago, 4 months ago.
Yeah,
Gone, Patrick's gone, Gostisbehere's gone, Haig's gone. I mean, this is they all see that. These guys grew up with some of those players, and they now know it's put up or shut up time. So, but I'm confident in all of them, because really we've seen them be good a lot more than we've seen them be bad. I mean,
that's true.
It was bad, but Carter Hart had 2 good years before that. Travis Konechny had 3 good years before that. Travis Sanheim had a couple of good years before that. Oscar Lindblom was leading the team in goals when he was diagnosed with cancer. So, I mean, we have plenty of evidence that these guys will play better. I would say more evidence of them playing better than not. So, I'm confident they will bounce back. Carter Hart is the number one of those that has to, and but they all kind of have to, and then you throw in everything else. I do think this is a better team. I think, as I said to you at the end of last year, and some people thought I was just being a homer, but I didn't think they were that far away last year, even though statistically they were, and the way they played, they were.
Right.
But as I said, if these guys just got back to where they were, they're a dangerous team. Now, on top of that, you add a Ryan Ellis and a Cam Atkinson and Keith Yandle and Brassard and Ristolainen. Now you're saying that might be more than even a dangerous team. So, we're talking about what if this happens and it goes wrong. Why don't we think about it from the other side, half full? What happens if they do bounce back, and now you've added all these pieces to the mix? This is a pretty scary team.
See, that's kind of where that's kind of the side of the sandwich that I'm going on, is that I'm looking at the frilly toothpicks and going, yeah, those are some nice frilly toothpicks we got. Yeah, look at that Cam Atkinson. Yeah, look at that Brassard. Yeah, look at that Yandle. I'm liking those frilly toothpicks. I'm liking those extra pickles on the side. You know what I'm saying? That's why to me, this is a 180-degree team from what it was at the end of last season. Now, the core group of young players, although is a bit smaller than what it was, I still feel that the main core group is still there, and agree with you 100%. If there's not that bounce back, then this is pretty much all for naught. But I think that the turnover, the change in culture, the change in energy in the room, not only did these bring these guys in, but these guys all wore the A or the C, or they carry that leadership into that locker room. You know what I mean? And that to me, I think, is more of the immediate impact of these players than anything that I've been able to see as far as at training camp, during the preseason games, or anything like that. It just seems like it's like these guys are having fun again.
Yeah, well, they had bonding day this week. Went golfing down in Atlantic City. I'm sure it was a lot of fun, but you can't be really in a room with Keith Yandle for very long without having fun. So Atkinson certainly doesn't shy away from having fun. Ristolainen has this presence about him, the big Norseman, big tough Norseman. I like to be hated.
Yeah.
And Brassard's he calls him a hockey nerd. He just loves hockey. Ryan Ellis eats, sleeps, and drinks hockey.
Yep.
He said it himself. We all know. We've watched Provy for all these years. Provy, by the way, we haven't mentioned him. He's right in there with that group. He has to be.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
2 years ago, or really 3 years ago, when he was playing at that level, and that's what Ryan Ellis will help him get to. But they've really been together a lot. And Ryan Ellis said, "I thought I liked hockey until I met Provy." So, but still, Ryan Ellis, you can tell he just eats, breathes, and sleeps it. So, they've all been good additions. But we got to see how it all gets together too. Steele, when you're talking about big changes in any sport, they look great, but they usually take a little time.
Yep.
And preseason's been good, and bonding and all this training camp, but you really bond through the ups and downs of regular season losses. And that all starts on Friday. So we'll see. But they do need a good start. They've got 4 home games to start, and then a road trip that, has a couple of tough games, but isn't something that, just completely scares you. So they do need a good start. I think the coaching staff needs a good start. You got to get everybody feeling good about themselves again. And then we'll roll from there. We'll see how it goes.
I too have to agree with you on that as well, where I'm cautiously optimistic. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this team has potential to be really good, and we all know what potential did. You know what I mean? And so I'm gonna just play this like I'm from Missouri, the show me state. So until I see them show me what they can do, I'm just gonna be it's all speculation until at this point. You know what I
It is,
mean?
but and every team, even Seattle, probably at this point is optimistic, right? So, we that's again like opening day in baseball or the week one of football, beginning of a hockey or basketball season. You're all optimistic. You got to be. If you're not optimistic, you're not a fan. So
That's right.
when you have an off season of change,
Yeah.
you're optimistic with that little bit of trepidation because you just don't know how it's all going to fall together. But I like what Chuck's done, and I think that pieces will fall together. They might not be in first place at the end of October, but they can't be in last place either. So just win some games early, get into some momentum, and the Alain Vigneault's teams usually kind of hit their stride in late November, early December.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. The schedule's tough. It's not easy with all the back-to-backs and with the compression due to the Olympics. But after last year, it's not. And last year though, not as much travel because all the teams were close by. So this year, in its entirety, might be a tougher travel year, a tougher year in terms of the schedule. It seems hard to believe given how many games they played in such a short period of time last year, but just because there's more travel. But we'll see. Again, I'm optimistic. Can't wait for the season to start. Can't wait to see fans in the stands, all of the stands at the Wells Fargo on Friday, and working forward with that 4-game homestand.
I am too, and I'm looking forward to hearing you calling the games for sure. So we'll be looking forward to that. We'll be looking forward to any great news that you have coming out about your school. We'd love to hear whenever you're.
That in December, that'll probably be the next news. But as far as the game, this is the first time we don't get to do the opener very much anymore. The network.
I know.
So happy we get to do the season opener this year against Vancouver. So, and actually hockey starts. We're recording this on Monday, so hockey starts tomorrow night. The season's here.
So now, quick question for you: Are you slated to do all of the homestand games?
Nope. We do the first two. The Boston game's on TNT. You'll still get Keith Jones, I think. I think he's doing that game. And, and then we do the Florida game. So we do 3 of the 4. And we don't do the first road game in Edmonton. That's a TNT as well, I believe. And then we do the other 2 road games. So we only missed 2 games, those 2 early. And then we go a long time without missing a game. And then we miss a lot in the second half. There's 13 games in total that are network only. 4 of those, just so fans are aware, 4 of those are not on television. They are streaming only on Hulu and ESPN Plus.
Okay.
When that first one happens, Twitter's going to be a little tough. And I remember when the Phillies had their first Facebook Live game, and it was just like the sky was falling, right? So be ready for it. I'm not sure the date. I might want to say December, but anyhow, the first only streaming NHL Flyers broadcast, and that'll be ESPN broadcast. So you're going to get, Kenny Albert and Brendan Burke on TNT, and then the ESPN. It's Sean McDonough, main announcer, but they've got Leah Hextall doing games. They've got
they got Olchuk back too.
Bucci Grass, Olchuk's on TNT, but I play Bush is on ESPN. So so it's it's going to be different announcers when ESPN takes over. The 2 on TNT and the Darren Payne's Brendan Burke's color commentator, but Edzo, Keith Jones. And Kenny Albert, you're used to them from NBC, but when ESPN does it, all new people. So except for Bush is the only one. But you've got, like I say, Leah Hextall is doing some games, and also as I said, Sean McDonough, John Buccigross. I think Steve Levy will do some games maybe, and There's another guy, I'm forgetting, but these are not guys who were on NBC. These are ESPN.
Right. Yeah.
Guys. It'll be different. We'll see how.
It's definitely so. Have you been able to watch the any of the preseason games that TNT has put out?
They only did 2 on the same night, and obviously the Flyers Boston one was a tough night for them. They had the switcher go down in the truck, I believe, and doesn't matter who you're broadcasting for. If the switcher goes down, you can't switch from camera to camera. So, so it was tough. They had bugs and all that. But I think the second broadcast that night out west went much more smoothly, and they'll be fine. They have good people there. People who've done it before. I think the studio show has potential, and it's going to be different. It's not going to be the same. Catherine Tappan and Liam. Well, Liam's doing TNT. So
TNT, yeah.
It's going to be a little different, though. Different personnel and a different approach, I think, to a studio show, more like the NBA show with Charles and Shaq and stuff. So it'll be fun. It should be a lot of fun, and we'll see how it goes.
Cool. I wanted to get your take on what you were thinking about, because now these new networks are taking over and doing the broadcast, and then they're also doing all the support shows, the pre-shows, the after shows, the intermission shows, and stuff like that. I just kind of wanted to get your take on that. I'm excited to see what ESPN's going to bring to the table. I will be front and center for that Tampa Bay Pittsburgh game, even though I going to be actually watching a Pittsburgh game on purpose. So I know, but Jim, I can't thank you enough for
watch that other Pittsburgh team for much of this year, hasn't it?
Well, we pulled one off yesterday.
Yep. You have hope again. You're back on.
Look, I'm just gonna say this, okay? Rome was not built in a day, and you can't fix what's broken in a day, right? That's all I got to say about that.
Timing is perfect for that. Let the dogs out. Yeah, I mean, hey, the Eagles fans, Giants fans, they have no sympathy for Steelers fans. Let's put it that way.
And you know what? I watched some of that Eagles game, and I watched some of the Giants game, and man, I'll tell you, it's like I said, you can't fix it in 1 week.
Giants have 8 of their 11 offensive players hurt. So
that's tough.
And the Eagles are youngest coaching staff ever, and they're trying to throw it together in a tough town. So, that was a huge win for them against Carolina. Otherwise,
I agree.
Brady coming into town. So the D stepped up. We'll see if that was real or whether it was Sam Darnold.
And I've always liked Sam Darnold. I always felt that he was a really good quarterback, and I felt that he was a really good pickup when the Jets got him. But they just never really used him. They never gave him any tools or weapons.
He didn't play well against the Eagles. Oof, some really bad throws.
Right, and so I saw some of the throws that he had there against the Eagles, and that was not one of his better games.
Good first 3, but the last 2 looking more like the Jets Sam Darnold. So we'll see. I mean, McCaffrey, you have him in that lineup, it's a whole different thing. So
Agreed.
We're talking football. Look at this.
Hey, what do you know? We went right from hockey to football.
It's hockey Friday, Flyers, Vancouver. Let's get some.
We are excited, and we're actually especially excited that we got to sit down with the voice of the Philadelphia Flyers, Jim Jackson, to talk about Philadelphia Flyers and football for review of the season for the Philadelphia Flyers. A preview for the season.
It's a preview.
Yep, it's a preview. Sorry, a preview.
That season flew by, Ron.
Man, no. Preview of the season. So, can't thank you enough for being here. Really appreciate it. Always love having you on, man. Always love sharing stuff with you, and really appreciate that. I will have all the links out there for your school so that everybody can check that out and go and learn from the best. Jim, thank you very much for being on here, and I really can't wait to start getting into some of these games, and maybe we'll have you on maybe a little later on down the season. We'll
the Olympic break or something.
Yeah, there you go. We'll bring you in to give us the assessment, the breakdown.
Then we can review something at that point.
Yes, then we can review something then. Yes, this is the 2021 preview of the Philadelphia Flyers. See, I got it right. All right, all you need is simple clubbing over the head.
We all do.
We all do. That's right. Jim, thank you very much for being on here. I really appreciate this. Thank you, sir, very much, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you all, folks, for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe. Thank you for watching the SteelFlyers All Sports Network with the voice of the Philadelphia Flyers, Jim Jackson. Thank you, folks. Just remember, stay safe, stay strong, and hang tough.